Hello, this is Karen for Picket Studios, and today I have created 3 cards using the March release. Here we have a closer look at all the stamps, dies, and stencils that I have used on these 3 cards. As you can see, most of them have a beach theme, and I have to admit that all sentiments from this release are absolutely fantastic. You will also find this gorgeous stamp of tulips, and I simply love the new stencils. I have used the snowdrop white, the cornflower blue, and the succulent green colors of paper glaze for my first card. Also, I will be featuring the mermaid scales stencil. Now I start off with the cornflower blue color of paper glaze, and I apply it through the stencil on top of some Bristol smooth cardstock. I spread the paper glaze all over the top of the cardstock using a spatula, and then I remove the excess using an stencil pad, just like you see me doing here. Now I switch to the succulent green paper glaze and apply this right in the middle of the panel, mixing a little bit with the cornflower blue color. Please remember to use a thick cardstock for better results. For this card, I'm actually using a 100-pound Bristol smooth cardstock. And I continue applying this creamy and smooth medium to get a good coverage. And again, I remove the excess with the stencil pad to get an even surface. Next, I will mix the snowdrop white color with a hint of the succulent green, using the same spatula on a different container, and I'll get this gorgeous pearlescent mint shade. Remember that you can mix the paper glaze colors and create new ones just like I did. I'm applying this new mint color at the bottom of the card, making sure to cover in all the empty spaces. Now you can see how I create an ombre look with this medium. Finally, using the stencil pad, I remove the excess from top to bottom. If you don't have an stencil pad, you can avoid this step, and you will get a great texture on your card as well. I remove the stencil now, and you can see the final result. I immediately put the stencil inside a container with soapy water, as well as the spatula before the paper glaze dries. Let's jump into our second background. I decided to use the same mint color for this card since I'm working with an ocean theme. So here I mixed the succulent green with the snowdrop white color, and I applied this mix through the stencil. By the way, I'm using the current official stencil for this card. I removed the excess now, and our second background is finished. Now I will add a bit of texture and more color to the paper glaze. I'm using the Wow Bahama embossing powder. This is a blue, white, and silver mix that I thought will be a good contrast to this shade of paper glaze. So I add a bit of the embossing powder on top of the paper glaze using this tool. It's very easy and you don't need a lot of the embossing powder. You can also use your fingers to randomly add any embossing powder or glitter. Always remember to shake off the excess, and now it's time to apply heat, using a dual heat tool from Wow. In this case, I'm using the lowest speed to control how much heat I'm applying only to those parts with embossing powder. If I get some bubbles, I don't mind because it will give an even more textured look. Our first and second backgrounds are ready, and now let's go ahead with the last one. I will be making an ink blending technique using again the Mermaid Scales stencil and Mermaid Lagoon and Cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide inks, using 2 of the Picket Studios life-changing blender brushes. I speed up the process because this is a very well-known technique, and I'm just blending 2 colors, which is very easy. And our third background is ready. Here you can take a look at our 3 backgrounds already finished. And now we are ready to trim down the edges of the panels with paper glaze. For this background, I'm using a circle die to die cut a window for this shaker card. Also, I'm going to stamp the view of the sea stamp from Picket Fence Studios to create a background that will show through the window, using Simon Says Stamp Hybrid Mali Blue ink and Hero Arts Fiesta Teal ink to add some contrast. I press firmly and this background is ready. Here you can see that it looks beautiful. Now I will clean my stamp using the new stamp scrubber from Picket Fence Studios, which was previously soaked with soapy water. Using my Misty, I will be stamping and heat embossing 3 images from the Things on the Seafloor stamp set by Picket Fence Studios. I add anti-static powder to my card, then I stamp using the embossing pad, and now I apply Wow Gel Sky embossing powder. This is Wow Oceanic embossing powder, and finally Wow Angel Eyes embossing powder. Next, using my Wow embossing heat tool, I will heat emboss all images and then run them through my die cutting machine using the matching dies. Now let's make our sentiment. And this is the new I Miss You word die by Picket Fence Studios. First, I'm going to ink up a piece of cardstock using Wow embossing pad. I pour the Wow Montserrat embossing powder over top. And finally, I use my heat tool to heat that up. Next up, I will die cut the I Miss You word die by Picket Fence Studios out of the heat embossed cardstock that I just created. And also, I will die cut the shadow using some vellum. Here I have my die cuts ready, and actually I decided to die cut a second shadow vellum. I attach all my die cuts to the vellum shadow using glue, and please don't forget to attach the dots on top of the ace. And finally, I glue the second shadow for a more opaque look so my sentiment can pop up more from my busy background. Now my sentiment is ready. Let's continue assembling this shaker card. Let's put some score tape at the back of this panel to adhere this piece of acetate. Then I'm going to add this small piece of cardstock to a white card base using glue. This piece will be seen through the shaker window. Also, I'm going to add foam tape to the back of my background panel with the shaker window. I pour different colors of sequins, close the shaker window, and my background is ready to start adding the sea plants that I have previously heat embossed and die cut. Finally, I adhere the sentiment using double-sided tape, and I glue some sequins around, and my shaker is ready. And here you can see the one I made before. Okay, here we go with the assembly of my second card. For this card, I made a little variation from the original card I created. I'm using natural twine to add a bit more of interest, and my focal point will get more dimension this way. So now I have to secure the twine to the back of my panel using double-sided tape. Every time I wrap my panel, I make sure the twine is touching the adhesive. The score tape that I'm using here is very strong. However, I will be adding tape to keep and hold the twine in place. You can add as much tape as needed and nobody will ever see this part. Next, I will be adhering a white card base at the back using foam tape. This is the Hello World die from Picket Fence Studios that I will die cut and heat emboss using this embossing powder. So I apply the embossing pad on top of the hello, then I pour the Wow Sandcastle embossing powder over it and heat it up with my dual heat gun. I die cut a second hello word and glue this piece to the back of the heat embossed hello for more dimension. I will use the You Are a Child of Cat for my sentiment on this card. I will ink the stamp up using Wow embossing pad, and then I will heat emboss it with Wow opaque bright white embossing powder. Okay, so now I'm adding this teal circle on top of the twine using foam tape. I'm also using this other circle with the paper glaze that I saved from my first card, and right on top goes the sentiment. To finish this card, I add the hello word and glue a few jewels around. Here you can compare both cards. One has a more flat look, and the last one has definitely more dimension. And for my last card, I will use the Wanter Wrap stamp set and die. I will color this image using Prismacolor pencils. So to start off, I will stamp this image using Antique Linen Distress Oxide ink. Here you can take a closer look at the colors that I will be using. And by the way, this is the sharpener from Faber-Castell that I use and it works fantastic. This video doesn't focus in coloring, so I have speed up the process because you can use copy markers, use watercolors, or any other technique that you want or feel more comfortable with. Lately, I'm just wanting to use more of my color pencils and practice a little bit my coloring. This is actually an easy and beautiful image to play with, so have fun with it. For the small shell, I decided to use my favorite teal color pencils. And once I finished coloring this image, I used the coordinating die to die cut it, and here we have it ready. For my sentiment, I will be using Create Your Own Piece from the early Tulip Bouquet stamp from Picket Studios. So on my final background, I'm adding a white card base at the back using glue. I place a white circle on top of my background and I put the Wanter Wrap image on top using foam tape. Finally, I put some glue at the back of my sentiment strip and place it next to the focal image on my panel. As a final touch, I add some jewel straps from Nuvo all around the background, and my last card is also finished. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked the cards and get some inspiration using the March release from Picket Studios. I wish you are safe and healthy at home taking care of your family. See you next time.